October 13th, 1943. SOE agent Noor Inayat Khan is getting used to her new home in central Paris, a prison cell at 84 Avenue Foch, the Sicherheitsdienst headquarters. She's managed to evade the enemy for months, but was arrested just days before returning to Britain. She knows what awaits her. Many of her SOE comrades have been tortured, thrown into concentration camps, or executed. There's no doubting her bravery, but we all know that even the toughest agents can break. I'm Astrid Deinhard. This is Spies and Ties, a series of World War II, and I say, hello, darlings. Noor Inayat Khan, here she is, might just be the only agent of Britain's Special Operations Executive with a claim to royalty. She's descended from Tipu Sultan, ruler of the Indian kingdom of Mysore. She was born in Moscow in 1914 and grew up in London and Paris. She begins a career as a writer, and her work appeared regularly on French radio and children's magazines. In June 1940, her family flee the German invasion and head for Britain. Noor joins the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, called WW2, and trains as a wireless operator. In August 41, Noor applies for a commission in the WW2. She hopes it'll open up more interesting jobs, but the commissioning board turns her down because she expresses sympathy for Indian independence. But she's an experienced signaller who can pass as a French woman, so the WW2 do pass her details on to SOE. In November, she has an interview with F-section recruiter Selwyn Jepson. He's impressed with her, with her attitude and being, and offers her a job. In February 43, Noor signs the Official Secrets Act and heads for training. When she arrives at the training center at Beaulieu in southern England, it becomes clear that she might not be cut out for SOE life. She becomes overwhelmed with fear during a mock Gestapo interrogation and gives away far too much information. It's part of a bigger problem. Noor refuses to tell lies, a conviction she has inherited from her father, who was an Islamic teacher. Her honesty means that she's described by pretty much everyone who meets her as sweet and innocent and a little childlike. That's not ideal for a spy. During one of her training missions at Beaulieu, she's stopped by a police officer. She happily tells him that she's training as an SOE agent and asks if she'd like to try out her radio transmitter. The commanding officer writes that Noor is temperamentally unsuitable for SOE, but that doesn't stop them from rushing her into service. By spring 43, the situation in France is very critical. French's Sutil SOE circuit Prosper is expanding rapidly. He needs more wireless operators, and he needs them now. Head of F-section Maurice Buckmaster and his recruitment chief Vera Atkins think Noor is ideal for the job, and they both dismiss the concerns of the training team. Buckmaster has seen several agents who have had negative training reports go on to perform very well in the field, and Atkins believes that Beaulieu are unreasonably harsh in their assessment of women. Plus, Noor is confident in her abilities. Atkins asks her if she's happy to go to France. Noor's response is, "Oh, yes, of course. Noor may be happy to go, but her training is being cut short and she's being sent into a deadly environment. The life expectancy of a radio operator in France is 6 weeks. Still, on the night of June 16th, Noor climbs into the tiny Lysander aeroplane and leaves Britain for the last time. She's landed in a field near Angers and from there makes her way to Paris to join a circuit codenamed Cinema, a sub-circuit of Prosper. Straight away, SOE let her down. They've directed her to an address that has already been compromised by the Gestapo. Luckily, Noor isn't caught, but Sutil is furious and complains angrily to London on the 19th. But it's all over for Prosper the very next day anyway. Sparty covered that in War Against Humanity, but it all starts with the Germans arresting 2 newly arrived Canadian SOE agents. This leads them to Sutil, who they then arrest on the 24th. As Prosper is pulled apart, Noor lies low. She alternates between a flat in Paris belonging to Emile Guéry, leader of Cinema, and a home in the suburbs owned by resistance contacts. Her hosts find her endearing, but Noor frustrates them by forgetting some of the basic of spycraft. She leaves her codebook lying open on a table in their hallway. She hands over a map in public, and she forgets that the telephones are likely to be bugged. Noor may be careless, but there's no doubting her bravery. By July, she is the only one of F Section's radio operators still at liberty in the Paris region. When she informs London about the Prosper arrest, Buckmaster urges her to return home, but she refuses. She keeps London updated about efforts to rebuild the network, arranging drops of weapons and ammunition, and coordinates the escape of downed airmen and POWs from France. She's literally surrounded by Germans. Her flat is on Boulevard Richard Wallace, and many of her neighbors are actually SS officers. It's too dangerous to transmit from the flat. So she moves between the homes of various contacts in Paris. She has people drive her to rural villages. She even stays with a family of friends in her childhood suburb of Suresnes. But one time, she's in a big rush and takes the risk of transmitting from home. Her radio has a 70-foot antenna that's too big to erect inside her flat. So, Noor decides to string it up from a tree outside the building. As she works and fiddles around, she hears a shout, "Mademoiselle!" Noor turns slowly and finds herself looking at one of her SS neighbors. Can you imagine the terror? Fortunately, for whatever reason, he doesn't start questioning her. Instead, he offers her a hand. Together, they spring the antenna up. The SS-man bids her a polite farewell and leaves. When Noor recounts the story a few weeks later, she laughs at the absurdity. Perhaps the safest place is right under the enemy's nose. But her luck is about to run out. It begins in late July when the Gestapo raid the home of a resistance member outside of Paris. Noor had stayed there briefly, and the Germans discover some messages signed off with the name Madeleine. That's her SOE code name. In September, the Germans spring a trap. They force a captured SOE agent to telephone Noor and arrange a meeting at the L'Arc de Triomphe. She narrowly escapes when her resistance driver notices 4 suspicious-looking men sitting nearby. Noor goes into hiding. She leaves her flat on Boulevard Richard Wallace. She gets a new hairstyle and new clothes. Finally, in October, she arranges a flight home. But her luck runs out just a few days too soon. Someone betrays her. The prime suspect is Emile Gary's sister, Renée. This will never be 100% confirmed, though, and Renée will be found not guilty by one vote at a post-war military trial. Whoever it was, they did it for just £500, and that is less than 1/10 of the going rate for an SOE agent. The long and short is that by October 13th, the Gestapo have Noor's new address. When she returns home in the afternoon, she finds a French collaborator waiting in her flat. Noor kicks, bites, and screams, but she surrenders when the collaborator pulls a revolver. Noor is taken away and moved to 84 Avenue Foch, the Sicherheitsdienst headquarters. She's interrogated by Hans Kiefer, who took the lead in interrogating Sutil. It seems the doubts that the SOE trainers had about Noor are misplaced, because Kiefer will write after the war that she behaved most bravely after her arrest, and we got absolutely no new information out of her at all. But despite all her bravery, Noor has made one very serious error. She's kept a notebook in a bedside table with a copy in code and in clear text of every message she has sent and received. From this, the Germans work out the code she's using and get hold of her security checks. It's an elementary mistake, Spycraft 101. Why on earth didn't she burn the old messages as she should have? Well, Noor was given some really badly phrased instructions upon leaving London, which led her to believe that she had to keep a record of all her communications. Because her training was cut so short, she didn't realize how wrong her interpretation was. It's a big cock-up, just another one of those simple mistakes that could have been prevented if everyone was a bit more careful. This mistake allowed the German to play a new radio game. They forced Noor to send the first transmission. She has one last hope. She sends a message with a key phrase exactly 18 letters long. It's a secret signal indicating she's been caught. She agreed this tactic with SOE Code Chief Leo Marx before leaving. SOE understand the meaning, but they keep talking to Noor. They are cautious and test her with personal questions. The Germans are clever. They send in a plainclothes SD agent pretending to be a resistance prisoner. He extracts the answers from Noor during a kind of friendly conversation. Because the Germans can answer these personal questions, by Christmas SOE will be convinced that Noor is still at liberty. This allows the Germans to start playing another radio game. It results in 7 agents being captured, along with 1 million francs in cash next February. Noor outperformed everyone's expectations and managed almost 4 months before being captured. She will never collaborate with her captors and will try to escape 3 times. She will meet her end at Dachau a year from now. In a way, she's a mirror of SOE as a whole. Incredibly brave and willing to sacrifice everything for the cause, but let down by her basic errors and mismanagement in London. SOE dream of playing a leading role in the invasion of Europe next year. They are rushing to build up the French resistance, but they are doing it with such carelessness that they are having quite the opposite effect. Radio games, traitors in the ranks, people like Noor sent into the field before being ready. It all adds up to a bloody mess. And for what? Does it seem like SOE are setting Europe ablaze? Certainly not in France. How many more of these brave men and women will be fed into the meat grinder for no return at all? If you'd like to see a more successful British spy operation, click here for Operation Mincemeat. To get even more content like this, please join the Time Ghost Army at timeghost.tv or patreon.com, and I will happily see you next time, darlings.